Companies and financial institutions are subject to numerous risks, putting cybersecurity at the forefront of their concerns. Yahoo Finance's Julia LaRoche joins us live from the newsroom, and you spoke with none other than Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon about the risks. What is he concerned about?
Well, like everyone else, he's also concerned about cyber risk. This is a really real threat. You heard Fed Chair Jay Powell talk about this on 60 Minutes this week, and a lot of CEOs are talking about it. So that's not the only thing on David Solomon's radar, so let's take a listen.
Cyber is a risk that I think is something we should all be focused on, and I know that all the CEOs of the big, large financial institutions are focused on this. And in fact, I was asked, sometime in the last year, what was the number one risk, that I was focused on or worried about, and I highlighted cyber. I think that it's something that we're all living with. We're all learning how to do better, protect our organizations, more. I think coordination between companies and government on these issues is super important. And I think the leadership group of the large financial institutions is working to get more in sync with government to make sure we can do everything collectively to be as defensive as possible in this. So that's certainly something that we're thinking a lot about. I think there are risks around the evolution of market structure and the fact that we've seen a significant change in market structure over the last decade, and it really hasn't been tested under stress because we haven't really been through a stressful period. We've had regulatory change. We've had a movement to much more index product, more ETF product. We've got more systematic trading and more stuff running through machines, and the whole combination of this is relatively untested under stress. And so how liquidity works at a period of stress is something we spend a lot of time thinking about. Worry about government debt around the world. I think one of the things that's interesting right now is that the increase in government debt around the world is something that I think could present, in certain markets or at certain times, risks that could have secondary, tertiary effects. So there are always things that we're looking at and thinking about. We have a very, very strong risk management culture at the firm. I would say despite the fact that there are always things and we're focused on a bunch of the risks I just mentioned, at the moment, while there's no question that the trajectory of economic growth has slowed, I think maybe here in the US it would be good to say it's moved back to trend from being ahead of trend last year. I actually think that the economic activity in the US is progressing okay at the moment, and I still think the chance of a recession, here in 2019 is very low.
So there you heard it, a chance of a recession in 2019, not likely, and that's according to David Solomon, the CEO of Goldman Sachs. We did talk about a lot of different issues. The focus of the day was on technology and also a big conversation about ethics. We'll be running clips of this throughout the day on Yahoo Finance. Julia and Adam.
We look forward to hearing more of it. Thanks so much, Julia. Great interview. Appreciate it. So it's interesting there that he did focus not so much on the economic risks, but on the cyber risks. Yeah. As he put it. Do you think that's the right tack?
The one thing he left out, and I was kind of surprised, we talk about cyber defense, and we're trying to protect ourselves. What about cyber offense? What do we do after we've been attacked? And we have been attacked. You can bet that defense companies like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and others are actually looking at that. And you can bet our military is looking at a formidable response if, in fact, we are breached more severely than we have been.
Well, haven't we? We have in the past used cyber attack
with Iran?
To exchange, yes, the Stuxnet, what's it called? I forget. This was years ago, but their nuclear program. Yeah. So we have been on that side of it.
We invented this game, and we're very good at it. But when it comes to individual companies dealing with this risk, I've spoken to many cybersecurity professionals who often do consultations to companies, and the biggest problem that he says is that there's a lot of box checking instead of more proactive solutions to try to get more results. There's a lot of CYA going on, and that's really important to avoid that and actually be kind of evolving as the techniques evolve that the hackers are using, because this really is an enormous thing. It has people's perceptions as customers that play into this. Obviously, every time that there's a hack and people's personal information gets leaked, that is a big risk. Reputationally for a company, and trade secrets. And I mean, there's so many levels of this.
And we know that it's just box checking because it keeps happening, right? It happens to the military, it happens to the government, it happens to social media and the fake accounts that we all follow to get information.
I think everybody here in this room has likely been breached at some point. I know I was with Equifax. That was a major one here.
Yeah.
So obviously there is more that needs to be done.